Justin, thank you so much for joining us today on the ICT Newscast.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
I want to jump right in here because you're in a new role at First Peoples Fund. So tell us a little bit about the journey that brought you here.
Yeah, today is exciting for me in my own personal journey. I'm now the new president and CEO of the First Peoples Fund. So thanks for having me on my inaugural day. But I've been working in Indian country for quite a while. It's a lifelong journey, as you can understand. And so I've held a commitment to ensuring and helping our peoples in whatever capacity to thrive, to sustain their ways. And so this is just really a continuation, particularly through a passion of mine, which is Indigenous arts. So it's an honor to be here, and thank you.
First Peoples Fund operates so many different arms. Like, you quite literally have your hands dipped in so many things. So at a high level, tell us a little bit about operations and kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, well, First Peoples Fund is a national organization, but we also have some pretty strong local roots in the Plains area of Pine Ridge, South Dakota, and the other Lakota nations there. And so we grew out of Rapid City in the Pine Ridge area, but now we also have programming all over the country. Our roots are in what we call supporting cultural bearers through our Community Spirit Awards. Those are recognizing people who really carry on ancient and traditional ways of knowledge and doing through the arts. But now we're also in this modern day, and so we're supporting artists through fellowships and other types of business and entrepreneurial training. We're also supporting other Indigenous nonprofit organizations, and now the newest one, which is now a little over a year old, is we actually have a physical space called the Oglala Lakota Art Space in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, where we're doing art classes of all sorts, and we're also doing internships and fellowships and all the like. So we're dabbling in actual programmatic elements on the ground to national work and advocacy still. So
this series that you're a part of with us today is called Indigenous in 2024, and I want to ask you, in the observations that you've had and the work that you do, what the single most pressing issue is for Indigenous people in this day and age?
Wow, that's a big question. The singular most. Well, to be fair, I don't know if I could actually just say singular, because I think what is pressing Indigenous peoples may vary based on where they're located, what their priorities are. It could be an environmental issue. Those in some places are the pressing issue. It may be the loss of language or culture. That may be the pressing issue of that. I can even say maybe enrollment. That is a modern day issue that a lot of people and tribes are facing, is this idea of enrollment, and what do we do with this notion of being pedigreed, if you will. And so I know people are wrestling with that issue. But for me, I think as a father of 4 children, a mother who is a fluent speaker, myself, who am no longer fluent. I grew up with it, and I've lost my language in many ways, or at least the fluency element, and then seeing my kids have less. That to me is a really a big concern for me personally, and I think many can relate to that, is just the ongoing challenge of retaining who we are in terms of our tribes, our Indigenous teachings and life ways through our language and culture. And it's the essence of who we are. And so for me, when you start to see some of the statistics and things of the language could be lost by this many years in certain communities and places, and the loss of many of our elders who are still speaking those languages, that concerns me.
I want to ask you the flip side of that question, and that's what the single greatest strength of Indigenous people is right now.
Yeah, well, maybe I did answer that for myself. I do think it is in our ancestral knowledge and teachings and life ways that have been passed on for generations, rooted in the language. And I say that with all due respect. I think that our greatest strengths are who we are, rooted in our languages and practices, and that from there so much stems. Everything that we do and who we are comes from that. And yes, I don't want to not say that where we come from in terms of actual land base is very critical in those things, but at the end, it's that who we are through our language and culture. And even just saying that now, then I have words pop into my head like our relationships, that, and how we treat each other, and so whether you're, I'm Navajo and I meet someone from Alaska, there's a relationship. And so but it's still, that relationship is probably because we value the idea of who we are in relation to others, other people, other places, our place in the universe. It's just a beautiful thing that I think we have that is so critical today. And so I love that you said, what is our greatest strength? And that element, that idea is so transcendent that I think, our world, not just our nation, our world needs and hungers for this idea of who we are. So, that place of belonging and things. And so I just love the fact that the world has so many Indigenous communities all over, and we're probably all rooted to that idea of language, culture, life ways. That's our strength.
A lot of the core values that you're bringing up are sort of the reason that First Peoples Fund got its start to begin with. This idea of making sure that culture bearers exist in the future. In your role, what goals do you have, and what do you ultimately hope that you're leaving for the next generation?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first I have to acknowledge and obviously honor individuals who went before me, particularly Lori Poirier, the founding president and CEO, who blessed me with bringing me on board and allowed me to, I don't even want to say fill her shoes. That is not at all. I can never do that. But recognizing that so many worked hard to create a place and space that recognizes and honors cultural bearers, artists, Indigenous artists, and just the importance that has in community. And so my goal in the short is, one, don't mess it up, right? Don't mess it up. And to continue that legacy that has been set before me. And so to continue to honor, lift up artists, Indigenous artists and culture bearers, particularly in places that maybe doesn't get the recognition, doesn't have the resources financially, et cetera, and to continue to do that. As you know, there's just so much is happening in this space of creatives, Indigenous creatives. That's exciting. Yet there are still a lot of folks that do not have the access to certain things, whether it's resources, training, markets, all of that. So that's our ongoing job, is to continue to work to provide that. And then in the future, I think, we're experiencing a little bit of it right now. We're now going to be entering into a space of how to support performing artists. That's new for us. We also are engaged in how to support Indigenous musicians. So just like anything else, we're expanding from the visual arts to music to performing arts, and having to learn and understand what does it mean to support those folks that are doing amazing things. So it's definitely an evolution for us, a learning journey. So I'm excited to just see what comes.
I am too. Justin, thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you.